our society. So again, I would like to thank the whole team and to let everybody know that you have my full commitment to expand the impact that we have reached. These collaborations are headed towards the very same mission that we are envisioning, connecting the world in an innovative fashion, in a way that allows our network to grow, especially in the human side. Thank you very much, Romina. Thank you very much, Eugene. Now we're asking our production to run the video for us, please.
Para incrementar la resiliencia de las ciudades, se requiere...
In order to increment the city's resilience, we need everybody to participate. In this network, we're launching a great transformation in terms of the digitization of all our cities to become more and more resilient each time. Digital economies allow us to bring new opportunities in an inclusive way with the potential to create benefits across all of our society and to make sure that each city becomes more efficient in turn.
Con la adopción de soluciones de pagos digitales sin contacto,
adopting new solutions for contactless digital payment, we will unleash a transformation in our Jalisco society, creating a more efficient, more inclusive, and more resilient system for all the inhabitants of this state.
Com o programa Talent Booster, vamos acelerar a educação digital e financeira de comunidades vulneráveis da cidade de Salvador, aumentando a geração de emprego, o empreendedorismo e o fortalecimento da economia local.
A través de soluciones digitales, vamos a conectar la producción agroecológica de nuestros...
Digital solutions will try to bring the productivity up for our local grocers, making sure that we decrease food insecurity for the next years, making sure that our system is truly self-sustainable and resilient.
Agradecemos de vuelta a Eugene y Romina. La verdad es que...
Now we're giving back the floor to Eugene and Romina for all the things that they're doing to bring this program to life. But now, in order to know more about the actual functioning of the system and how we're going to take the first action, we will hear Aida Esteban, Head of Urban Mobility in the cities for Latin America and the Caribbean. Go on, Aida, you have the floor. Thank you, Luis. Hello, everybody, and good morning. And I would like to add something else to Eugene's and Romina's message. We're so happy to be here today, celebrating the digital sector for urban and human resilience as the subject for this first edition of our schedule. So before going into anything else, I would like to explain to you how these systems are being developed. So if help me really quickly, view the presentation. So we've created this alliance with Eugene and Romina in order to highlight the strengths of our institution and to have a general impact in cities and their economies. This program began with a very simple goal: to support the vulnerable sides of our society in order to face and solve the most difficult challenges that they face, strengthening their resilience in their economies through inclusive digitization. And as we all know, we are in a time of constant change where transformations are upon us. So this is what we need to understand in order to fully understand the components of our program, which are three: to understand, to solve, and to escalate, to heighten. What do we mean by understanding the first of our components? We were thinking about analyzing challenges to be able to view the main challenges that we face through the optic of urban resilience in order to make the best of current opportunities present in our economy. As part of the first movement that we're going to do, we have created a digitization index which could help our cities to see how they can become more efficient and so that we can all together work in our areas of opportunity. The second component is to solve, which evidently, like you all know, means that we can support other cities in solving their digitization challenges. And this is a very innovative concept because we have new teams to help that, our network teams, our police teams, and the innovation center, where the methodology has been developed so that we can use our design thinking and working especially with the resilience teams in other departments and other cities, in other governments, and many different players in each city's ecosystem. We have created a virtual array of tools that will allow us to visualize, analyze, and solve any problem that any city might have. So this was part of our first plan of action. And the last component, to escalate or to heighten. This is of the utmost importance to our program because we are trying to amplify the impact that we can generate, to share our knowledge, our learning, and we want to do that through publishing our playbook, which will be done today, and also through this forum because we are all here together. We want to make sure that everyone can benefit from our work, from our knowledge, from our solutions. How did we select the cities that we were going to work with? Well, we had an open application for all cities. And we presented all cities with a challenge in the digital economy spectrum. The challenges that were given were analyzed by a committee that evaluated every single step that would need to be taken according to many different criteria. The main cities that we have been working, especially during the last year, that are present in this forum today in order to share their experiences have been the metropolitan area of Guadalajara in the state of Jalisco, the metropolitan state of Quito, and Bahia in Brazil, which as we just saw in the video. So what are these challenges and these solutions? The challenge presented in the city of Guadalajara was the following: how can we have a different experience in public transportation, whether interoperable, sustainable, to actually benefit the inhabitants of the metropolitan area of Guadalajara and the rest of Jalisco in order to make the city more egalitarian and inclusive. For many months, we were working on the solution in order to modernize the system of public transportation in the state, implementing a new system for digital payment. This is more sustainable, faster, and accessible to everybody. The second challenge was presented by the Metropolitan District of Quito, and it read, how can we make digital tools more accessible to make sure that all businesses have a proper handling of their finance? And this is a challenge that we are very excited to be working with. We're reactivating these kinds of challenges in these areas. In this case, what we did was analyze all the values of chains, all the chains of values connecting different kinds of merchants for smaller to larger enterprises, making sure that we knew what their situation was in order to implement a new initiative to help all the different businesses in Quito. And finally, in the municipality of Salvador Bahia, was how we can strengthen the local economy in a sustainable way so that the city of El Salvador is more resilient. So we work together with this network, our network of resilient cities, Visa, and the Secretary of Research, Development, and Technology, and the Foundation Casas Bahia and HAP El Salvador. We worked in order to create a digital school that would be free to all applicants, all done in an effort to help Salvador to bridge a gap between the vulnerable citizens and new opportunities and better tools for the development of their own lives. So these are the programs that we implemented, and I'm sure we will hear about the experience of each individual member of the panel in a second.
Muchísimas gracias, Aida. Algo que se ha mencionado en prácticamente todas las
Thank you, Aida.
intervenciones.
Actually, we've heard this in all interventions. The pandemic, COVID, have accelerated the transition with these changes both internationally and regionally, domestically, changing many aspects of urban life from the same time. So at the same time, we're looking at the future of Latin America and an urban environment, and we are honored to be able to hear Julián Suarez this morning. He's the head of sustainable development for Bank Latin America and the International Council for Water. He's an economist and a business administrator, and as head of sustainable development in Canada, he is in charge of implementing all the different programs related to water, wind, inclusion, gender, and climate change, among many other different subjects. So thank you very much for being here with us, Julián, today. Thank you, Luis. It's also a pleasure to be here with you today. Can anybody hear me properly? Thank you. So thank you very much for the Global Network of Resilient Cities and Visa's invitation to this forum. I know that we are here to build over something that is already pretty resilient. But I like this program of better preparing cities to challenge their own development challenges of tomorrow, especially in Latin America and the Caribbean, since we are so vulnerable already. And in the context of the pandemic, obviously, this is more complicated, so it becomes all the more important to further our efforts. So thank you very much, Eugene Zapata. We've been working very closely with Eugene in our coordination for a while. We're also been working with Romina Seltzer. Thank you very much to Aida. Also, your presentation was very interesting to me, and we give our thanks to Alianza and, of course, this forum. And now, going on a more pragmatic aspect of things, we would like to co-create and, as you said before, escalate. So it is me a pleasure to be able to share a couple of minutes with you, with all my different colleagues, letting you know that the work that we've been doing at the Inter-American Bank of Development is furthering of the digitization of all the member countries. We have 17 members, which actually we just had an 18th applicant in Salvador. So we're thankful for that. Last year, we worked in this network 7 different exchange sessions and trading of information with local government, which was a very enriching experience so that we could learn from each other's story and somehow catch up, somehow understand how the different aspects of the management of digitization should be, especially in the context of a pandemic. So let's get going.
Muy breve, cómo se encuentra nuestra región a prácticamente 2 años de la pandemia, cuáles son las principales tendencias.
This is very simple. What is the first needs that we need to attend in terms of urban resilience? So this is the proposal that we're still working with at the level of a local government. And let me show you. This has already been mentioned, so I'm going to try to speed through this part of the presentation. The pandemic is an opportunity, but it has created many different needs, very different essentialities, such as digitization, which are so important today. Just imagine what would have happened if the pandemic had happened 20 years ago when we needed to use a dial-up connection, right? That would have been so difficult. This is actually Romina was telling us how we are adopting new technologies, especially in the communication and the information sectors. And we've also been listening to how it's important for us to pay attention to digital banking, which again presents us with the opportunity to be more financially inclusive, but also to create efficient solutions in favor of a better learning as humans towards the better health of our society. And these new policies are not very open in many Latin American countries, which can then in turn become a phenomenon that exacerbates the separation and inequality. In Europe and the United States, and I don't mean to overwhelm you with numbers, but over there, 40% of all workers can work remotely and work from home, and has been able to do so throughout the whole pandemic. Nevertheless, Latin America and the Caribbean, CEPAL estimates that only 21.3% of all workers are able to do it. Africa's rates are at 15%. But on the other hand, at a sectorial level, the probability that one person has to work is about 80% across all professional activities. Nevertheless, many sectors are in Latin America and the Caribbean, representing about 20% of all jobs available. If each one of these professions or sectors had a chance of growing, it is this moment. Obviously, there is a significant gap in our region with connectivity availability. Actually, I was talking about this with the Minister of Economy of the Dominican Republic, which participated in our meeting yesterday. Low connectivity in the Dominican Republic reduces the availability for people to work by 11% if they are to do it online, which in turn results in the results seen and the working matrix of the whole country. So obviously the pandemic has highlighted how important it is, how it is a need to strengthen and better structure all our digital tools with innovation in our sites. This is what we've learned in Latin America and the Caribbean. we are learning that in order to make a connection better, at least physically speaking, is one tool that will lead to digital government, to the government being involved in a way that is able to take care of the challenges of their society. So broadband internet is very necessary now, which contributes to the regeneration of all the users' abilities.
El secretario de Asuntos Estratégicos.
And we were speaking in this strategic meeting with the leader of Argentina, for instance. We already had the Revolution 4.0, but the 5.0 revolution is already incorporating all the social needs of the people in this agenda of inclusion. And finally, our new plan for the sustainable cities and climate change has obviously become very important, very relevant during the last conference of the parts, the 16th conference of the parts that took place in Glasgow, Scotland. And the challenge is how we can better prepare all the cities across the world with an agenda of adaptation to the environmental challenges that we face today. Now, I would say that our challenges nowadays are quite significant. On average, the digital access, at least that is efficient in our region, needs to be better in the sense that the prices need to be more accessible to families, and there needs to be a framework that is inadequate for people to access the network. Actually, it has been proven that less than 50% of our entire population has broadband internet, and only less than 10% has high quality optic fiber installed in their home. In terms of average, this is, of course, a generalization, but there are great separations across all different sectors of our society. For instance, in Chile, it was only 15% that people had broadband internet, but then in Bolivia and Paraguay, only 3% of homes had access to the internet. There are, of course, affordability and effectiveness barriers. There are many houses that, for instance, only have 3 gigabytes availability, which is almost 10% of the homes in many countries. And the cost of a smartphone obviously is quite significant, because it can reach 30 to 35% of the total monthly income of the family in Guatemala or Nicaragua, which is more than 80% of the people. One of the key things that I wanted to mention in terms of these gaps is there is a great amount of technological illiteracy in our country. It has also been shown that at least 50% of the people in our region were not familiarized at all with any digital means. Or there are also many individuals who are over 200 million people that have been technologically excluded because they don't know how to use any of these devices. And this is, of course, one of the biggest challenges that we need to face in order to bring people into taking advantage of all the opportunities that we are now presenting. In regards to the general government, we would say that we are not very ready to take advantage of all the benefits of digitization. For instance, in 2015, only 30% of the countries in our region had a way to access their services digitally. And then, of course, the international pandemic came and everything got sped up. Obviously, we need to see how we've done over the last couple of years, but we are clearly still with our sights on improving our development and adaptation. Now, these slides can speak for themselves, but it's clear to see how the pandemic has affected all the different sectors of our society. It has, for instance, affected in the learning of children across Latin America and the Caribbean, because there were many children that were not attending school at all for a while. And the subject of digital education has become something of a deprivation to a lot of the population. And then this has obviously affected the labor market. Out of all these tendencies, I would highlight a couple of things. First of all, everything digital is necessary and has been introduced now to fully integrate in our society. Obviously, now the benefits of digitization have gone from being just a luxury to natural need. And I think that bridging this gap is something available to all governments. Many governments in Latin America and the Caribbean are estimating that over the next decade, broadband availability will go to broadband working from home will amount to 0.12 or 0.13% GDP for each country, and one of the goals for connectivity will be of 62% across the country. So if we run a cost analysis test on these budgets and we compare it to other great investments that Latin America and the Caribbean have to commit to in order to bridge the infrastructure gap in development economies, we would say that the effort needed to cover this particular need is not that great. Now, one of the most crucial elements in order to face the economic difficulties in this region, as a problem of this nature, I would say that the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean have started prioritizing this challenge, especially in the informal market.
Elevar, diría, en torno a propuestas de CAF, destacaría simplemente tres líneas que venimos trabajando. Primero, entender cómo podemos contribuir a elevar las capacidades.
Now, in order to escalate and to heighten, we need to understand what are the particular needs of each region so that we can enhance them and improve them for a better post-pandemic administration, which will now be the basis of a resilient agenda to changing the whole region. Now, secondly, I would say that it's important to deepen our understanding and our involvement with urban digital inclusion so that we can reach the digitization gap in many different homes and the government. But in order to do this, we need to understand what are the effects of having an access to the internet is for each one of the people so that we can understand how to bring them, not only just from an economical point of view, but also from a cultural point of view and advance them. And lastly, we need to understand how to bring the theory of operation to an actual practical knowledge so that we can rise from the challenges that this pandemic has given. Now, I'm going to go on to the next slide just so that I can share with you two very brief cases that we've been working with for a long time. The first one of which is Salvador de Bahia, obviously working with one of the regional governments. Now, within the framework of our initiative, Cities with a Future, we have been advancing in a financing aspect that is important for operations in Salvador de Bahia. The direction plan for technology and intelligent cities, which promotes an intelligent, a smart city model that is obviously sustainable and inclusive, focused on the people, and that makes sure that everyone has access to platforms of interaction and communication in order to boost the growth of digitally fueled businesses in the region. We want to install over 200,000 kilometers of optic fiber cable, which we are subsidizing, and we are also developing an urban cloud and a system to better administer the city in terms of a great digital environment. Now we're going to go on to the next case. I'm sorry for rushing through all these things. This is a program that we use in the autonomous city of Buenos Aires, a platform for climate change and the fundamental implementation of the goals for climatic sustainability, which is a commitment to significantly reduce greenhouse gases in 2030 by 54%. Now, this initiative, which is aligned with many different protocols in the government that we've also been supporting, is showing us how there is a process of co-creation that has resulted in consultations, workshops, and many different lessons between the government and citizens. The interesting thing in this platform, or at least from my point of view, is the administration of the progress in climate change and how it can become an opportunity to the digital environment of every city. Now, I've run out of time, so I would like to just thank you for your attention and for this space. It has proposed to become the Green Bank of America, Latin America, and the Caribbean for the years to come. And obviously, I would just like to state how important these digital solutions are, at least for us, in the future to come.
Muchísimas gracias, Julián. Es un gusto contar con tu presencia y con tu presentación por parte de
Thank you very much, Julián. It's been a pleasure to listen to what you have to say. You're one of the main allies in our network for resilient cities. Now, based on what Julián has said, with the data that he has shared with us, we will give the floor now to the cities that have worked in the first edition of these programs so that they can show us what they have done, how they have benefited from the digitization of many different cities in Latin America. Now, to moderate this panel, we will welcome Maria Camila Uribe. She's the main director of the division of homing in the Caribbean and Latin America. And it's her who has become the coordinator of the network of cities. Maria Camila is an economist. She has a master's in economist and in business administration, and she has over 18 years experience in the public sector of Colombia, where she was secretary of environment in Bogota. And she has always excelled at fiscal and global environment. So Camila is obviously one of the main parts, is going to present each one of our participants and is going to help us understand this a little bit better. Go on, Camila. Thank you very much, Luis, and thank you very much to everyone that is here with us today. Thank you for the international network to also allow us to join this network with Inter-American Bank of Development today. The social network of DID is a platform that allows us an easier exchange of solutions and knowledge so that we can face all our urbanization challenges present in the Latin American and Caribbean region. Through the spreading of knowledge, we will be able to identify the problems and the solutions that are at hand so that we can not only solve our problems, but also those of our neighbors. Of course, we are looking towards programs such as green recovery and urban resilience. And in this laboratory, we have reached a better advancement in digitization as a tool to strengthen urban resilience. These platforms are key to our 2025 vision. These last years have proven to be quite a milestone in urban resilience because each city became a laboratory as the pandemic came. This allowed us to be better connected to see what challenges were present to us during the pandemic, from doing generalized tests to be able to maintain different schools and as well as helping in the aid of all the emergencies brought on by COVID-19. We have bridged the gap socially, at least, with our urban development program, just as I said before. But we can see the numbers and we can see the gaps in between the cities and the inequality between their inhabitants. And again, these are many problems that our citizens have already faced just because they had no access to the internet, because they were not able to work from home, because they could not go to work during the conditions to which we've all been subjected to. So I think it's very important for us to realize, at least in this conversation, how we can not only improve access to technology, but also how we can have better quality in digitization services offered in each city. Resilience needs to be incorporated as a public policy so that we can all have it. For instance, urban services create resilience and they should be delivered to all levels and nooks and crannies of society. I do think that we are now key allies in order to improve the lives in our city. Technologies can not only help us make our lives better by having early onset alarms in order to detect what is going on in our situation, in our societal situation. But we can also improve the quality of life by understanding everybody's challenges, such as we're seeing today, which is the reason I am excited to be here today, because I want to learn more and I want to share more with all the different cities that are here tonight so that we can understand how to make our citizens' lives better. And now, listening to the panel members, let's actually start doing that. Let me introduce Arnoldo Lopez de Vera, the head of public transportation in Mexico. We are also joined by David Hackon-Mertel, which is the Metropolitan Director of Resilience in Quito, and finally, Magda Kimaray, a uh, systems analyst in working with the company and the governance of electronic governance in Salvador de Bahia, in Brazil. So thank you everybody for being here, and thank you for telling us what your cities face as challenges. We'll start with the Director of Transportation Services in the state of Jalisco. Their mobility in Guadalajara has experimented many different changes during the last few years, implementing new processes obviously for urban development and the new applications for city planning as well as city management have been seeing great benefits. Obviously, there have been many implications that the COVID-19 pandemic had a great impact on all transportation services. So now they are taking this into account, also keeping in mind that public transportation is key to the life of the city. So now, Diego, please tell us, how has the state of Jalisco done with implementing digital payments in public transportation, and how do you think the city's resilience can be incremented? Good day, everybody. Thank you very much for your invitation. I'm here on behalf of the government of Jalisco. I would also like to say that also in this call, we have Diego Monraz, which is the leader of this project, the appropriate channel to answer these questions. So thank you very much for mentioning it. And now, go ahead, Secretary.
Bueno, qué amable, Milcar. La realidad es que tengo que iniciar con un reconocimiento.
Thank you very much. I have to say that I have to start off by thanking the team for the mobilization service and technological service of Guadalajara, because it's been them who have taken care of this project from the very beginning, working alongside the territory management section of our government. And in many different cases, we've also worked with the Foreign Relations Office. So I would like to first start by thanking Resilient Cities and Visa and everybody else for having chosen and making more progress in these projects in the state of Jalisco. So we become leaders internationally in terms of implementing technologies and new models to improving urban mobility in our city. We have done this with an approach to create a resilient system, but also to create a system where there's gender equality and that helps us put more vulnerable peoples in the center of our attention. In the metropolitan area of Guadalajara, more than 6 million people live. This is the second urban settlement in the country of Mexico. And for the last 3 years, we've been implementing a new public policy called Mi Movilidad, My Mobility, which is an integral system for mobility, where today, with an electronic payment system that has been implemented over the last 3 years, we have achieved digital payment through a card that can be seen now, and where it works across all the different systems of transportation, not just in Guadalajara, but in the rest of the state. For instance, you can say the light train, the RTP system, which are a bus system. And obviously, all of these sectors have been unified under one single card. The cities of Puerto Vallarta and Pantitlán are also joining in this system with a credit charge system, which basically allows each citizen to have at least 1,000 points in their card. And over the last year, we've seen a growth of 5% to 35% of the population. We've heard from what other cities in the world have benefited, like in the case of these digital payments. So I can see that our strength and our growth has paralleled to that of other cities. Because, of course, this can be done with proper organization and proper education. You will probably reach better results than you would think. Today, we are working with resilient cities and Vista. And we would like to announce to everybody that we are going to receive the greatest work that has been done in this country, at least in terms of sustainability, when we inaugurate the new RTP line. These are our many articulated vehicles that have many different complementary units, which will move over 300,000 users every day. This system also includes the implementation of bicycle paths across the whole state, which has been part of an urban regeneration program for our cities. And as I said, we're going to inaugurate it in a couple of days in order to have it fully functioning by January. It will also be next year, where your electronic payment done with Visa credit cards for the first time in Mexico will constitute automatic bank payments in transportation systems. So we're thankful for this phase, this first phase where we have learned and collaborated with many different institutions, with the generosity of many non-governmental organizations. And we think that this is the first step of many. We believe that in terms of digitization and using tools to bridge gaps towards resilience and offer better services that are in everybody's reach, we can face our new post-pandemic challenges. So we're working in the state of Jalisco and the state of Guadalajara so that we can have a better and more inclusive state in the economy of our people, so that the people can live more comfortably and safer. And lastly, but not least, I would like to add that Guadalajara is the first city, as well as Puerto Vallarta and Jalisco, that has all information on Google Maps as a collaboration with Google itself. So all of the public transportation routes have been digitized in this first phase, which allows the users to interact with our network in order to see where bus stops are located, to see where each route goes and where it begins. And in the future, this will be a real-time tool for users to see where the units that they're boarding are. So I would like to thank Resilient Cities for bringing us forth in this forum. And also, I would like just to be thankful for this first phase, which we're about to conclude, because we're reaching the goals that we set ourselves out to do. There are 42 stations that are getting ready to welcome more than 300,000 users per day, which will be completely operational next year, and they will be able to be accessed by digital payments, which opens the doors to many more technological advancements in the future, with better access and better security and public transportation quality. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Romina, and thank you everyone else here with us. Thank you very much, Secretary. Your work is very interesting. Thank you for being here today. Now I would like to give the floor to David Jacome, the Director of Resilience for the Metropolitan District of Quito. So, David, thank you for being here with us today. The expansion of these networks means that we have to understand the separation between the urban areas and the rural areas and agricultural productions in the field. All of these farmers come from many different places where they have to access many tools so that they can also partake in urban life. This pandemic has allowed us to see how fragile our local economies are and how chains of supply and distribution of products in a country can face difficulties. So how do you think that the digitization of local businesses, especially agricultural sectors, to an electronic market can improve their entire economy, and how that can contribute to making the whole city more resilient? Thank you, Maria Camila, and welcome to everybody. Also, thank you to Visa and Resilient Cities Network so that we can participate in this event and this program. I'm going to frame my answer in 3 bullet points. First of which has a lot to do with understanding what has been the story of our city up until this point in terms of resilience building. Then the second point is, what does it mean to work in an agro-food system, an agricultural food system? And the third point is, what does it mean to be able to take advantage of technological tools at our disposition? So going back to the first point, we've been working since 2016, and we're looking at a metropolitan scale, how we wanted to make the city more resilient. What I mean by this is saying that the agricultural food system in our city is distributed alongside all of our territory. And if we're going to approach it, we need to look at all the different characteristics for each side of it. Nevertheless, in terms of time, I've seen that 1 in every 2 Quitoans are under 30. But the situation will change. We will stop being young and we'll become being old. And we'll become old. This means that in the future there will be a need for good job offers for all our citizens. And I think this is one of the things that Quito needs to work on in order to become more resilient in the long run. This approach does not need to be focused on one gender in particular, but it should actually be done with gender conscience and with conscience of what are the best activities that could not only contribute to making our city more resilient, but also grow sustainably. The Resilient Cities Network helps us create the statistics to figure out what are the best productive sectors that could help the city become more resilient from this perspective. And one of which is, of course, the food system. Having access to food at the end of the day is connected to everything. It's, for instance, connected to receiving proper education as a child. This means that if we tackle all of these issues at the same time, we can bridge the literacy gap, for instance, in our city. And we can also reduce the population at risk that results from these economical gap between the strata of our society. So this is where we see that each one of these points leads us to seeing bigger and bigger challenges. For instance, the food development system in our city. So this is why we've started to implement a strengthening of our system in Quito, asking us two things. First of all, where is our food system failing in the city and why? And the second question is, how can we reduce the weaknesses in our system and strengthen a proper functioning of the system? Obviously, we're also figuring out how to do better with time because resilience means that we need to be paying attention over a longer time. Now, the pandemic also gave us many pieces of knowledge. We had identified where are the sectors of the population that have food insecurity, both physically and economically. And of course, we took into account the pandemic because these vulnerabilities were heightened and deepened thanks to the crisis. Now, as an answer, what we have seen that had been done in the city, at least from the year 2000, allowed us to understand who needs food and is not able to have access to food just because of the challenges that I already mentioned, the physical spaces, the spatial spaces, the economical spaces. Now we have in Quito, we're working also with urban plantation, which basically is it's made up mainly of people that are dependent on their own food supply to be sustained. And then we also see from the point of view of gender how most of these people are homeowners, which are women and in a vulnerable position. But we would also like to ask ourselves how we can bring better food access to these families and how they can share this what they produce. I think this is key because it's also one of the main opportunities where we can include technological tools in our approach so that we can bridge this gap. This has already been mentioned before. This is not just an opportunity to include more people into a more formal kind of economy and get rid of all the difficulties, but we also want to bridge spatial gaps and economic gaps in between all of the sectors of our society. Of course, we do need to work into creating more technological literacy across our people. This is just part of the work that needs to be done so that we can get better solutions. Understanding the role of technology in the development of cities in the long run, at least from a demographic point of view, and on the short term, from the point of view of bridging spatial gaps, we can see that one of the main tools and one of the most important and powerful tools that we have at our disposition is to see how we can come together with urban producers and rural producers to see technology as our go-to in order to understand how we can work together adequately and how digital payments can be one more tool in the road to support the urban development of our society because it clearly has societal and gender implications. So this is the extent of my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you, David, for this connection. And thank you for your words on how these urban markets affect different parts of the population. Digitization processes in these economies are an important challenge to everyone due to how qualified each worker has to be and how important it is to reduce digital gaps across all the territories in our country. One of the other things that the pandemic has taught us is that digitizing jobs and digitizing the economy is an urgent need for our society so that we can keep on growing globally. And now Magda Andrade is here with us today to talk about this. Thank you for being here. We would like to hear what the digital citizenship program for El Salvador is like, especially since it's located at reducing inequalities between all sectors of population and entrepreneurs. We would also like to hear how these strategies can work while including more vulnerable sides of the communities in our country. Good morning to everybody. There is now a language. I'm sorry, the translation is. I'm sorry, the interpretation is. We're having some technical difficulties.
Jovens negros que não estudam.
I'm sorry for the translation. The relay is not coming through.
Os inscritos foram majoritariamente que já sofriam exclusão do racismo estrutural da sociedade brasileira. Para capacitar esses grupos, foi desenvolvida a plataforma Talent Booster, que oferece ferramentas para que esses cidadãos sejam incluídos no mundo digital, conquistando uma cidadania.
We have created many different tools for citizens to be able to reach a better way to be included in a more egalitarian view of our society.
Cujo evento dia 6 de outubro em Mérida, aí no México.
These programs that we started instituting they received the prize in Merida 2021 to make our society better.
Muito obrigada, Magda. Muchas gracias. Porque nos permita conocer.
Thank you very much, Magda. I know that this is allowing us to understand how Salvador has incorporated the digitization techniques in their daily lives to make the lives of their people better. So we're getting many questions, and we've been working with, as you said, with 3 cities. And now I would like to start by asking one question to Jalisco. So let's see if the secretary can answer this question. So now, secretary, the question is, how do you think you're going to start using, how are you going to start improving public transportation? Thank you for this interesting question. Well, definitely, we are using the information that we see nowadays in order to enhance mobility in Guadalajara and the metropolitan area. And working with IMEPLAN, which is the Metropolitan Institute for Planning, we've been using the information that is at our hand, which is mainly made up of different traditional studies on the field in order to figure out the needs of the public transportation system. This is also that letting us know that at the beginning of these payments to understand how we can actually address the needs of our population and the different economy present in people's lives, because everybody lives in a different side, especially if you're far from the city centers. We need to understand how we can improve our subsidize our subsidies and our public approach. So we have a very well trained team at Imeplan so that we can process this information.
Muchas gracias, secretario. Ahora quisiera pasar a Quito.
Now I would like to go on to Quito. David,
La pregunta dice, ¿considera usted que Quito está en buena ruta para
would
lograr
you say that
su
Quito is
soberanía y autonomía alimentaria
going in the right way in order
este
to
proyecto
achieve
con visa y
proper
recibo
mobility and
ya
food
ello en esta
sovereignty?
línea?
And how do you think that our program has helped you? Thank you very much for this question. The answer is simple. We've still got a long way to go in order to achieve sovereignty. Food autonomy is not something that's in our radar because Quito depends at least in 85% all the food to come from other provinces. This is a reality that's difficult to change because obviously cities are just a place where demands are concentrated. So what we need to do is reduce the dependency on food production in other provinces. So one of the ways in which we could reduce the dependency is especially through the production of local food
las transacciones para que estos alimentos puedan ser, puedan estar
and to
disponibles.
making sure that the transactions needed to make food more accessible has been put in place. So all technological advancements are tools that allow us to amplify our abilities to bring more light to our society based on data that is not normally accessible. But these tools are overall facilitators for a better connection, for a better digital connection, actually, to achieve what is not normally available physically. So from these standpoints, these kinds of solutions do help the construction of a better and more resilient infrastructure, especially when all urban producers in their cities can see this as an advantage so that they can keep on contributing to food security, at least in the sovereignty in our city. Thank you, David. Now we have a question for Magda. Magda, what is the importance of inclusive digitization so that the city can reach its objectives in terms of a sustainable and resilient city?
Obrigada pela pergunta. Na atualidade, não existe necessidade de ser um cidadão.
Thank you for your question.
Passa pela educação do cidadão, nas tecnologias digitais.
Obviously, that has to do with the citizen education. So this project is the one that we decided to partake in because to us it's very important to address the needs of our society in this way. We need better trained people so that they can work digitally. This has not been super effective in the population at the beginning, especially in the color population. This is why we've been concentrated in this city because Salvador is becoming a smart city. So we want every single citizen to participate in our project actively. This is how we can use our technology to make our citizens participate in our digitization processes so that they can keep on growing in their businesses. Thank you, Magda, and thank you, everybody else. We do not have a lot of time left, but I do have one question for all three of you. And the same question goes for everyone. What can you tell us? What has been your, can you give us a tip or can you give us a recommendation or what have you learned, especially in each of your sectors, working in each of your cities, for instance, in Jalisco as well?
Las recomendaciones que ustedes le darían a una ciudad para empezar, para trabajar en estos temas.
So what tips would you give to a new city that wants to start working in these kinds of subjects? What do they need in order to go forth with digitization and to excel in all of the areas that you have faced? So let us start with the Secretary of Jalisco. Thank you very much. In terms of public transportation, at least the problem for us has been informality. It's the model of the buses and the way that they're directed, which has not allowed us to use better implementation of tools like the ones we're trying to get today. So the first step is to see concessionaires, just the people working in our buses, not as an enemy, but as an ally that we need to help by subsidizing them and invest more to create a better infrastructure for them to work and for everyone to move around our cities. And one essential part of this infrastructure, after formalization, obviously, is to create a better technological structure. Yes, we need to get many new buses in line and we need to create a lot of new public spaces in order to improve mobility. But one absolutely necessary step is to not spend, but to invest and help our people become more formal in our scheme across our city. And this will lead to a better implementation of technology or new tendencies that will eventually lead to a more sustainable kind of transportation. This is what I would say, because I think this is where many of us are Latin America. Thank you very much, Secretary. Now you, David, Quito? Absolutely. Thank you, Maria Camila. I would say my advice has more to do with participative planning and co-creation projects. If we are expecting these solutions to have the best chance at success. And in order to do this, we need to understand what are the actual challenges and what are the barriers that prevent most of the people from adopting these kinds of solutions. And basically, we need to listen to people. And on the second step would be to sit down with them actually to create new structures that will support the ones that have already been implemented. And this is not just in the development of technological tools, but in terms of everything, planning for different structures in urban resilience. Thank you. Amazing. Magda, please tell us your experience from Salvador. My experience in Salvador has too many important things. First of all, we're working with connectivity. In Salvador, all different neighborhoods have been connected. And we've also been sure to look over education. So if there are any students that need to come closer to us, well, we have trained a lot of our citizens to be able to support them, as I said in my first intervention. Having access to tools means absolutely nothing if the people are not trained to use them. So we are open to our citizens so that we can answer their questions and train them in the way that they need to be trained so they can use all the tools so they know that they're well represented and they can improve their connectivity, their communication, and their work. As a warranty, to the citizen, by saying you will be able to have the knowledge that you need in order to have a job, and you will have a job. So there's a whole training structure behind our approach in Salvador. So thank you very much for your question, because we are reaching the point that we wanted to reach. Amazing. Thank you very much, Magda. Thank you very much to all the panel members and the experiences that you have shared with us today. Thank you for being here with us as well. And now I will give the floor back to Luis. Thank you, Maria Camila, and thank you very much, panel members. It's quite inspiring to hear firsthand what this experience has been for you and for us. And I would love to just thank you for all the information that you've shared with us. Now, as we mentioned before, this is the first edition of our program towards the digital world. But even though we're closing the ceremony for today, the program continues. We're working with digital cities and reinforcing our digital cities with Visa. And in order to know more about the future of our program and the results of these first editions, we will give the floor to Jim Zapata and Esteban to finalize. Thank you very much, Luis. We are doing well on time. So we're also doing well on good news. So evidently, I would like to thank each one of the panel members and the participants of this forum before anything else.
Que como decíamos ha sido una fase de 15 meses de arduo trabajo. Tiene un
I would like to tell you that this first phase of this program has been going on for 15 years, and the final work that we want to present to you, we will show you now. And we are now publicly launching our program. And you can see these posts everywhere. Digital solutions for urban resilience in Latin America. This document is a compilation of all the lessons that we've learned over the course of these months of hard work, and it is available for all the different cities in the Latin American region, but also the world, if they want to learn from the cases of Guadalajara, Quito, and Salvador. But not just in what they've done, it's also an answer to digital resilience overall. This is the content of that document. So the first chapter is an analysis on the world by thinking how digitization is an accelerator of urban resilience. And I think that the contribution of Julian Suarez, as well as the examples that we've heard in this conference today, and Maria Camila's intervention, we clearly understand what we're dealing with. We know what is the work. Now, the second chapter is the presentation of this program, and then third, one of the important parts that we'd like to share is an approach to resilience and innovation processes. What does this mean? This is a formula that helps us understand how these formula can help innovation, how resilience can help innovation to create more and more resilient countries. So this is an offer in methodology, a concept that can be very useful, not only for the people that are working with these subjects, but for any people that want to practice these concepts in order to make their cities more innovative and use them too. Finally, we are looking in the fourth chapter of cases with the cities with the numbers that we saw today. This is obviously already available in resilientdigitalworld.com, and it will also be distributed through social media. It has been posted in English and in Spanish today, and a Portuguese version will come out next week. So for us, it's a pleasure to share these results with you, the results of a lot of effort done by 3 cities. So thank you very much. Thank you, Eugene. Now, my words are just words of pride and thankfulness from myself and my team. And after the success of this first edition, coming up in 2022, we will enter a new phase of the program. Obviously, we would like to continue this effort in support of all the different sections of our society. So we would like to give you a couple of sneak peeks of what we're going to do in the next edition. First of all, we're going to make a reference to the cities in the second edition, where there will be support to a new group of Latin American cities, which is obviously yet to be defined. We don't know what countries are going to be there, but we will work with many cities that are committed to action, to renovation and collaboration, in aims of making the world better for us in the future. So as I said, we want to work with a group of many different new cities that have not participated in the first edition. And the second point that I would like to talk to you about today is making a reference to the thematic focus. So this, for the second edition, we will work with urban resilient transportation. We will look at the effects of the pandemic-19 pandemic and the rapid urbanization effect in Latin America. So obviously, we can see that there is great pressure in accelerating an interoperable urban structure that can allow most of the sectors in our society to benefit. We think that it's also very valid to improve access to safe, egalitarian, universal mobilization probabilities for our citizens, both in normal times and in times of crisis too. So there will be a formal announcement when we announce where we're going to be working with, especially the people and the panel members for the next edition. So I would like to thank all participants here for the work today. I think this is quite inspiring, and we can see now what can be achieved if all the agents of change are working simultaneously towards achieving one goal. Thank you very much, Eugene. Thank you very much, Aida. And this is the closure of this session. We would like to thank all the panel members for urban resilience for having taken part in this first edition. Now we're going to go on a brief recess, and in 15 minutes, we will start the deepening sessions where we will be able to understand firsthand what these experiences have been like and how these approaches have been developed in aims of improving the life in our city. So we'll take a very brief recess, and you can use your login to go into each one of the city's portals, and we will meet you there. Meet you in 15 minutes. Thank you again for your participation.
Listo. Muchas gracias por su